Welcome back to this week's edition of Husker Huddle presented by Sapp Brothers, where we say welcome, be our guest. Today we're lucky enough to be joined by the current New York Jet, former Nebraska Cornhusker, former Baltimore Raven, Alex Lewis. Alex, how are you, my friend?
Oh, doing great, just trying to stay safe during these wild times and getting ready for the season coming up.
Absolutely, and you nailed it. It has been wild. This offseason's been wild, unlike anything anyone ever thought. What have you been up to these last few months?
I've just been nose to the grindstone. Recently signed the extension with the Jets, so got paid a nice contract, and now I got to go out there and prove it. So, it's been a big offseason for me and in the weight room and on the field training, and this time away has been great from the team just for the fact that you really get to focus on fundamentals and techniques on a micro scale, and it's been great for my game.
So, let's run it back a little bit. Last year, you get released from the Ravens there, and you find yourself a home at the Jets. How was that, walking into a room of all new guys? It's your first transition out of what you thought was a stable place into a new place. Kind of, how was that for you mentally? And then, you get into the starting role, which is awesome, and got that new contract, so obviously it worked out well. But how did that work for you?
Yeah, mentally you just got to go in and think about just doing your job. As a new guy going into a new team, you can't worry about what else is going on around you. You just got to focus on going to work every day and making sure you're doing your job, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So when I got traded to the Jets, that was the mindset I had going into it. And now that I've established myself as a starter there, I think that this is what the next level of like a starter becomes is, how do you incorporate guys and bring them along with you with that same mentality and finding that group where everyone's clicking on the same cylinders. And, that's something that I'm really trying to work on for this upcoming season.
You guys have a good team up there, a young team. You guys have a young team in the Jets. Playing in Buffalo the last 2 years, I got to play against the Jets twice a year. You guys got a really solid team. Who are some of the leaders that you look up to on that team as you try and model yourself to become a leader?
One that sticks out right away in my head is C.J. Mosley. I played with C.J. in Baltimore for 3 seasons. And then, this last year I got to play with him. So I've been fortunate enough to play with him all 4 years of my career. And, just seeing a 5-time Pro Bowl in his first 5 years come in and go to work every day, you look in his locker in the locker room, and he's got his goals printed right there on a piece of paper, right on his locker for everyone to see. And it's down to become the starter, be a leader, win such and such, make such and such tackles, and then being a captain and stuff like that. And so seeing a guy like that come in and prepare day in and day out, not just physically but mentally in the playbook and the meeting rooms, now that's someone that I want to model my profession after and I look up to.
Being in that O-line room there, you've got some heck of good rushers in that room. You got some really good rushers on your team. Where are you going to be looking at, left guard, right guard, or where do you feel most comfortable at now in the league?
Like I say, my whole career, just put me with that, whatever gets me on the field, whether it's left guard, right guard, center, tackle, I don't care as long as I'm on the field. Comfortably, I feel comfortable at all 5 positions, and that's just because my pop's growing up, he played the game for 10 years. So when he asked what position I want to play, and I told him, I want to play tackle, he goes, okay, good, you'll be an O-lineman. Because the more you can do in this league, the longer you'll be able to play in this game.
That's an absolute fact. I use that as my mantra. It got me 6 years there before I got beat up and had to get out of there. But Alex, you signed the new big deal. You talked a little bit about the mentality of now you got to go out and earn it. I think people sometimes don't realize that is really, I would say, majority of the time when people do sign the nice deal they deserve, that's their mentality. A lot of people think, I get paid and shut it down. What is your driving factor now, besides just wanting to prove that contract? Like, what are some goals you have for yourself this year now that you've got to second contract, you've established yourself as a legitimate starter in the NFL? What are some next tier goals for Alex Lewis?
When you talk about next tier goals, I think you just take a look back at our second half of the season, and we started the season off 1-7 and we finished 6-2. It was a completely different team by the end of the season. So for this next tier goals, it's like, all right, now how do we take that mentality that we finished with and translate it to the start of this new season? You know, what pros came out of that second half of the season, and how do we find those pros and pull them out of there? And then how do we eliminate the negatives that we had in that second half of the season to eliminate those 2 losses? You know, so when you're going into a new season like this, especially on a new contract, you got to be the guy to step up and look at the big picture here of last year. Be like, look, this is where I struggled personally. You know, for me, it's little things like when you're watching tape, it's all right. My butt was a little too low on some of my run fits. You know, I got to get my butt higher so I got more snap in my hips when I'm coming off the ball. Or it's timing of my second hand when I'm throwing it on my short set, pass set. You know, it's breaking it down to those minute details that will really separate and elevate your game.
I think that that's a huge part of it, and I think that people don't understand how not having an OTA system this year will affect that for the NFL. How have you been able to stay in touch with your guys, your O-linemen, so that you guys can all kind of focus on those little minute things as a group? Because as you know, and I know, if you don't have all 5 guys operating on an extremely high level together, you might as well, you're worthless, right? So how have you guys stayed in touch, and how have you guys worked together as an offensive line unit over these times with COVID?
Well, I mean, you know how it goes. The O-line is the team within the team.
Absolutely.
So the stronger your O-line is, the stronger your team's going to be. And, you know, we had our virtual off season with 100% attendance, but other ways that us players have taken on personally is, you know, we start our own group chat. We have quizzes sent to that chat where we can all get together and do our own Zoom meetings weekly and sit down and review our plays that we're going over. But this is going to be a huge, I guess you could say, revelation of, you know, who's a real pro this season, because you're going to see a lot of guys, you know, that really step up, and you're going to understand that those are the guys that took it upon themselves to become a pro and elevate their game, you know, and they didn't just rely heavily on the team or being told what to do. So I think that, you know, this is a great opportunity for guys to come in fresh, you know, with all, for God's sake, healthy and able to compete this season. So
I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'd like to hear your take on it of how hard it's going to be for a rookie to contribute this year, not just at offensive line, but really any position, because, I mean, that jump, as you know, from college to NFL is unlike anything these players have ever seen, and they're not going to get the training wheel period of OTAs. They're going to get right into training camp where it is, I mean, it's nut-cutting time. It's time to make a team. It is competition and, like, not a lot of hand-holding. How do you think this rookie class this year is going to fare across the entire NFL?
You know, I think you're going to see a tremendous rookie class coming in. I mean, just look at this year already and everything they've gone through. Now, granted, they're not going to have as many opportunities to step up and, you know, prove themselves. But when you do get that 1 or 2 opportunities, if you're lucky you get 2, when you do get that opportunity, you got to be ready to go. And I think the rookies understand that. You know, I had a meeting where I talked to the rookies and I broke it down like, look, this is how you be a pro. Not only are you watching tape on the opponents you have that week, but you got to watch tape on your teammates, because those are the guys you compete against in camp to earn a job and be able to feed your family at the end of the camp, you know. And I think a lot of the rookies, when I was in that meeting, you know, they ask great questions. You know, they're like, oh, well, how do you watch tape? You know, what tape do you start with first? You know, what are you looking for when you're reading a guy? And questions like that is what, you know, spins the wheels going for guys. And, you know, I always told them, like, you got to be a sponge in this sport. So any information you can take, especially right now, and we're fortunate to live in this day and age of technology, if you can take all this information and just be a sponge, you got to be coachable and take advice from your players, because guess what? You don't have coaches up there telling you, like, look, this is how it's done. You know, you got to take advice from players and teammates and understand, like, these guys have been doing it for a few years or some even a decade, and how do we take a little snippet that just relates to me and apply it to my game?
Absolutely, man. Well, we're excited for you this year. I mean, again, congratulations on the contract. Very much well-deserved. And we're excited to watch the NFL season get kicked off here. But I'd be remiss in letting you go if we did not talk a little about college football, and more specifically, yours and I's first love, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. They've got a lot going on this year, but I want to focus a little bit on the offensive line, because I know you're like me. When you watch the team, all you watch is the offensive line. I think that there's a chance this year to have some NFL talent in Hymas, Farniak, and Juergens eventually. But what is your thoughts on this year's offensive line for the Huskers?
No, I completely agree with the 2 picks you just made there. I mean, I remember when Farniak came in, right when I was leaving college, and he was a big stud out of high school, and this will be a great year for him to come out and be a phenomenal leader up front for him. And as a pipeline at Nebraska, it just comes down to the end of the day is it's just you and your guys in your room. It doesn't matter what other noise, what news is reported, what coaches say. As an offensive lineman, all you got out there when the bullets are live is the guy to your right and the guy to your left. So I think it's going to be very important for these two guys to not only step up as leaders, but to show them that they're more than just a teammate. Show them that the O-line's a family. And, I expect great things from this young lineman at Nebraska, and I'm looking forward to the season with them.
Absolutely. Last take here. What is your expectation for this Husker football team all around? Not offense, defense, but just the all around. Year 3, Scott Frost. I like asking all my guests this, that have wore the scarlet and cream, understand what it means to play in Memorial Stadium, because they have a more realistic approach to things than just the normal fan, because they understand the pressures of it all. You've watched it now for 2 years. You've seen the bumps that Scott's ran into with his program. Year 3 now, expecting some big things. What is your expectations or some things that you want to see out of Scott's team this year?
It's hard when you take over a program and you got to turn it around, and, hat off to Scott Frost and bringing his guys in and, storming those rough seas for those first 2 years. But, in year 3, what I would love to see is just smoothing out those bumps. And what I mean by that is, start putting together back-to-back wins and put together winning streaks of 3 to 4 games, and when you start seeing that consistency come across the board, you just get to break it down and level up every time you go out there.
Absolutely. Well, Alex Lewis, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you joining us here on Husker Huddle, presented by Sapp Brothers. Sapp Brothers' the top priority is to keep guests and teammates safe. Sapp Brothers is offering full service at the pump as our nation relies now more than ever on drivers and farmers to provide essentials to our communities. Sapp Brothers is committed to serving you. Alex, again, stay safe, stay healthy down there in Arizona, man, as you're continuing to grind. I'm sure season's right around the corner. You're starting to get jacked up again. We'll catch up soon, my friend, and as always, go Big Red.
Awesome. Go Big Red. Thank you, guys.